Hey, welcome back, everybody. Good Wednesday evening to all of you. Hopefully, we had a wonderful day. I've got an update for you here on the tropics, including Hurricane Ernesto, likely to become Major Hurricane Ernesto within the next couple of days, and kind of what's after Ernesto. Again, we still have to get through impacts into Bermuda, which unfortunately impacts have definitely gone up for you folks over the past couple of days. Also, potential impacts into Eastern Canada. Which we will talk about the trends on that. Luckily for you folks today, it's trended in the right direction compared to kind of some of the crazier model runs we had overnight. So we'll hope that that is something that sticks and kind of continues onward here through the rest of the week. But again, even after Ernesto, we are still very early here in the hurricane season, and things do look like they could really pick up here going towards the end of the month. And into the start of September here. So with that said, if you are new and you haven't already subscribed, definitely do that. Also like the video, hit the bell for latest notifications, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. Now, a couple of housekeeping things. Again, I will have a video out tomorrow morning encompassing the tropics as well as what is happening back home. And again, we'll have a good update there for you on some severe weather concerns that we do have going through the rest of this week. Also, I will not have a video out tomorrow evening. I am moving to a new apartment to start the school year here. So that will be happening tomorrow. That'll be basically an all-day event outside of the morning. So again, I'll get the morning video out for you. That'll be the last video that you see kind of with the current setup and all behind me before things change. And I've got pretty big plans for the channel here in the future. So hoping things again go in the right direction, and I'm super excited for it. Also hoping for a good school year. So again, that's just kind of what's in the agenda here and kind of what I'm expecting over the next little bit. Also expect down the road evening videos will become much less common than they have been. Again, just with class and stuff, I'm going to have some later classes that are going to kind of go over into what would normally be recording time. But morning videos are still the plan every day, 7 days a week here for the foreseeable future. But again, should any big scheduling things happen, I will let you know in the coming videos. But I think with all that said, I've rambled on long enough. Let's go ahead and talk some meteorology here. So Ernesto, again, this big old kind of spinning ball of convection, if you will, here over portions of the Atlantic. And we saw some pretty good rain totals today over Puerto Rico. Also had some pretty good wind gusts. So if you happen to be watching from Puerto Rico, let me know how much rain you got. I think some folks got more than a foot of rain, so definitely a lot there for you guys. Now, the good news is the storm is pulling away, but it is also strengthening. So we are announcing, again, Hurricane Ernesto. Also, structure has become better throughout the day today. And as we kind of zoom on into the storm here, you'll notice that we have seen that structure improve throughout the day. And wow, look at this latest burst of convection happening right near the center here. A big explosion of some of those cooler cloud tops, just indicating strong thunderstorms, again, that are moving really high up into the troposphere here and kind of hitting the top of it. Again, that's showing up on our satellite here. So definitely a strengthening system here. Hurricane hunters were in there this afternoon, did find hurricane force winds, and though storm still does have a way to go before it gets to major hurricane status, but I do expect sometime tomorrow or Friday, we very likely will see that upgrade to around a Category 3 hurricane, and if we don't quite get there, we will sure be very close. But unfortunately, not a good sight for all of those, for those of you, again, sorry, my brain's all over the place, but for those of you in Bermuda, not what you want to see, this strengthening storm, and again, it really looks like it's going to mean some pretty mean business here as it approaches you. Now, if we take a look, we do have the latest track from the NHC, also latest numbers here on Ernesto as of 5 p.m. It is a 75 mile an hour Category 1 hurricane, pressure of 989 millibars, so now a sub 990 storm, and will continue to strengthen over the next little bit. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Again, just look at how impressive this is beginning to look on satellite, on visible satellite. And again, I'm really impressed by this latest blowup of convection here. This is a pretty impressive cloud top here right near the center of circulation. Again, here's that center. Here's that big upwelling I guess upward motion, I guess, if you will, of some of those air parcels creating that strong thunderstorm. And yeah, Ernesto has that look for sure this evening, and unfortunately will likely look even better by tomorrow morning. Now, the good news is we will see a little bit of sheer and dry air in the future, but not enough that will prevent the storm from strengthening. Latest forecast from the NHC is Category 2 storm by tomorrow afternoon, and then a Category 3 major hurricane by Friday afternoon, and then unfortunately impacts to Bermuda by Friday evening and into our Saturday. Again, here's the island of Bermuda. This cone has gotten much thinner, and you are still in it. And again, a lot of our models bring this just to the west of the island or some right over the island. So it's going to be, unfortunately, a bit of a headache to forecast this over the next couple of days. But I do expect some rough impacts, including strong straight line winds, some storm surge concerns, and definitely some heavy rainfall as well for all of you on the island of Bermuda. So if you're watching from here, definitely let me know. And if you can safely, while the storm is ongoing, if you will still be on the island, I'd love those reports from all of you. So again, going to be a tough one. Now for Canada, that's the second place we've been watching here. We've had some good news today, and that has come in terms of track. Now we are still expecting a strong Category 1 or 2 storm or extratropical. We'll see what classification it has. But either way, a strong low pressure will be near Nova Scotia and Newfoundland going into this weekend and early next week. How close is the question? And the good news is most of the model guidance this afternoon now keeps it offshore. Yesterday we had that, or last night we had that run on the European model that brought this right into Halifax, really, and brought some rough impacts. The latest model runs today have really backed off on that idea and have kept this further out to sea, which is obviously something we want to see because, if we look at the cone here of tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, Bermuda basically guaranteed now you will see at least tropical storm force wind speeds, and coastal Atlantic Canada here, a non-zero shot. So, you could still see some strong wind gusts for sure, but notice if this track is correct and the storm stays offshore enough, the worst of the wind will not impact you. So that is something we're going to hope for. And unfortunately, again, for our folks in Bermuda, it's been a rough day with the trends. The hurricane wind speed probability has also gone up, now passing or getting near that 50% chance of seeing hurricane force winds going into this weekend. So again, just not really what you want to see if you're on the island. And of course, anyone watching, that doesn't live in Bermuda, we'll definitely keep those folks in our thoughts and prayers. But luckily we can still hope that the track is far enough away that it's not a direct impact. But unfortunately, latest spaghetti models, you're probably wondering, well, where is the island of Bermuda? Well, unfortunately, it's kind of hidden under all of these spaghetti plots. So again, we've got a consensus here in the models, and the storm and the center of it is likely to be either right over the island or within 100 to 150 kilometers of the island. Maybe even a little bit more than that, but still very close run here with this storm, and it's going to be a strong one as well. So we can even see that in our model intensity forecast output here. Most of our models, if not all of them, get this to at least Category 2 strength. Some, again, crested into major hurricane strength. That's looking all but certain here, again, that we'll see at least a Category 2 storm. And again, that's a storm that could have more than 100-mile-an-hour straight line winds. That is more than enough to cause problems from wind and storm surge. Now, the good news is for our folks in Canada, obviously the track has looked better today, but even by the time we get to that point, you'll notice we'll probably peak in intensity sometime Friday, and then as the storm is scooting by Bermuda, probably plateauing a little bit in intensity, and then dropping off a good bit going into next week as the storm has some land interaction and or just kind of starts moving over those very cold waters of the North Atlantic. So it's going to be a rough couple of days here, but good news is the storm will not continue to strengthen forever. Like every storm, every storm has an ending. Every storm ends with a rainbow, if you will. So again, definitely some good news there. All right, latest models. I'm going to go ahead and just start with Bermuda, and then we'll talk about Canada. I'm going to go ahead and, like I've been doing, circle the island. In fact, I'll circle it with a smaller font just so we can really kind of dive down right to where the island is. I know it's hard to see, but that little kind of pink circle there, that's the island of Bermuda. And here we go. Latest GFS model, again, strengthens the storm up to a major hurricane. This is getting into Friday morning and afternoon. A sub 970 millibar low pressure. Again, this would probably be a Category 3 storm, maybe a strong Category 2, but very likely Category 3 here, and moving towards the island. So conditions likely to deteriorate. Tropical storm conditions likely to begin early Friday morning and continue throughout the day before eventually the core of the storm, unfortunately on the GFS, goes right over the island, and we would then see hurricane, potentially major hurricane conditions overnight Friday into the early morning hours of Saturday, again, right in that eye wall on this model, and then things begin to improve late Saturday afternoon, and by the time we get into Sunday, the all clear is good to go for you folks in Bermuda. But again, unfortunately, that's not the only model that is showing this. We take a look at the European, yeah, it's more of the same here. Getting into Friday morning here, again, tropical storm conditions beginning throughout the day Friday and going downhill to hurricane, close to major hurricane conditions here overnight Friday into Saturday, and the European, same story, direct impact with that eye wall over the island here as a strong Category 2 or a low-end Category 3 major hurricane. Again, for Saturday morning and then through the afternoon, slowly improving before overnight Saturday and into Sunday morning. Again, conditions get better. Now, I'll even show you a hurricane model here. This is our H-Wharf model, and I'm going to go ahead and back this up just a little bit here. This is our Friday afternoon and evening, and this little kind of blob you see here is the island of Bermuda at the top of your screen, and this will slowly continue to kind of move towards the island here, or I say slowly, it's going to be moving at a pretty good pace probably, again, through Friday overnight. So this is getting into early Saturday morning now, and this is when really the core of the storm is going to move over. This model, a 960 millibar low, again, this would be a major hurricane, and you can notice by the symmetry here, a powerful storm system bringing very strong winds and strong storm surge. Now, depending on where the core goes, if the core is just to the west of the island here, then most of that storm surge will be on the south side of the island. If it's just to the east of the island a little bit, then we could see higher storm surge values on the northern side of the island. But again, I think it's a little more likely that the storm will be just to the east here, or excuse me, to the west, sorry, as this model is showing here. And again, we move this into later on our Saturday morning and afternoon, those major hurricane conditions right into the eye wall, maybe the eye itself, sometime Saturday afternoon, as again, this being a very strong hurricane near Category 3 status through the day Saturday. Get that second side of the eye wall during Saturday evening, and then overnight into our Sunday morning, the storm moves on up and is just back to kind of scraping, or not scraping anything really, just getting back into the open Atlantic Ocean. Now winds, I'll show you the same thing here. This is going to be the worst of it probably. Again, Saturday afternoon will probably be the peak of the storm for you folks in Bermuda. But we could get two peaks. Again, if you go right through the eye itself, you're going to get that first part of the eye wall, then the back side of the eye wall Saturday evening. So again, if there's kind of a lull in between, don't get out and assume that you're done for. That's really probably just the calm before the second part of the storm, if you will. As that moves on through. So again, it's going to be a real doozy, but the good news is not a super slow system. So, impacts start to get really rough Saturday morning. It lasts all day Saturday, but then we get to Sunday. And again, the storm has moved on out of the way. So that is definitely some good news for you folks. Now, a map that I did not pull up that I probably should have, and I'll just go ahead and mention because I don't have a map for it, is the east coast of the United States. Again, the storm is not going to hit you. And I guess what I can talk about, or I can show it on our spaghetti plot map. Let's see, we'll use this one. So again, the east coast of the United States can't even see here. So you know what, actually, I know I keep changing things up on you. I'm going to use the other map because this will work even better. Okay, as I was saying, the east coast of the United States, again, you're not in the cone, you're not even in the tropical storm force wind probability map, but again, this will be a big, powerful storm. So we're going to see wave and rip current concerns, high rip current concerns through much of the east coast. So the best I can tell you is, go to your local National Weather Service office website, or if you've got a local meteorologist you like, check them out. I'm sure they'll mention it, but that will be a concern here through much of this weekend. And I know it's going to probably be, a pretty big holiday weekend, but it is summertime after all, so a lot of people are going to be at the beach. So again, if you're going to the beach or if you live there, just know we're going to have that concern. Pay attention to whatever flag is up at the beach. Check with any lifeguard to make sure that you're on the same page before getting into the water, and just kind of take those precautions. All right, Canada. Now, again, we talked about this with the spaghetti plots earlier. Things have improved for you in the forecast, definitely, but we're not completely out of the woods. So, again, both of our major models today have come in much further away from land. Here's the storm. Again, you'll notice not even really clipping Nova Scotia, and at most bringing a couple rain showers to Newfoundland Monday afternoon. And again, you'll definitely get some rain out of a front that's also moving through, I'll mention, but that won't be related to Ernesto per se here. So again, good news here on the GFS, not much to show you there. On the European, same general story, although a little bit rougher, at least for Newfoundland. So earlier this morning, we were taking a look at this, and there was a direct landfall into Nova Scotia. Different on the afternoon run today. Again, kind of just grazing the island, maybe a couple outer bands Monday, could bring some heavy rain and some gusty winds, but really the worst of it would be for coastal Newfoundland as the storm moves inland. Now, the good news is by that point, the storm would have weakened a good bit. Again, those cold waters in the Atlantic will really kind of take some of the juice out of it, but would still be a feisty storm here for sure, Monday into Tuesday, before then eventually working back out into the North Atlantic. And should we get something like this, again, could see some gusty winds. Anywhere in the range of 50 to 75 kilometers per hour on the southern side of the island. That's not even set in stone, though. Again, I'll show you one more time the spaghetti plots for this. Most of them keep this, again, off from Nova Scotia now. A couple bring it into Newfoundland, so we'll need to watch it for sure. But if I'm not mistaken, Nova Scotia is the much higher populated island of the two, which, again, Nova Scotia isn't necessarily an island, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's a peninsula, but, it's like an island in a way. Again, we'll watch it, but trends have gotten a lot better for you folks today, for sure. All right. Let's talk about the long-range forecast a little bit because, again, the east coast of the United States, we had Debbie last week, and since then we're probably, relaxing a little bit, enjoying it, especially folks in the Gulf haven't really had much to talk about recently near Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas outside of Beryl that moved through back in July. So, what's happening? Where is everything? Well, currently, there's a couple reasons we aren't seeing much tropical development. Now, above our heads, we do have pretty favorable conditions for these tropical waves, but two things are kind of inhibiting it. One, dry air from the Sahara, and two, where our intertropical convergence zone is. So a slight science lesson here. Basically, the ITCZ, as we call it, is just a band near the equator of thunderstorm activity, kind of due to some cells, if you maybe have heard of the Hadley cell. Again, it's basically just where winds meet at the surface, and that creates a lift, and thus we, get thunderstorm activity near the equator or near this ITCZ, and it's also responsible for many of our deserts. That same rising motion spreads out, and by the time it gets to about 30 north or 30 south, latitude-wise, sinks back down, and that's why we have the Sahara Desert. We have some deserts into Asia, the Middle East, and even partially kind of our deserts here into Arizona and California. So fun little science lesson there for you. But the thing about the ITCZ is it moves throughout the year. So during the summer months in North America, it moves to the north with that warmer air. During the winter months in North America, it moves back to the south, kind of towards Indonesia and India, and that's where they get their kind of monsoon season. So notice on this map these wind barbs and kind of look at where they are moving here. Where you see them kind of meeting each other or changing direction, specifically right here, you'll notice the wind speeds or the wind directions changing. That's kind of the location of our ITCZ. And currently, we're kind of lacking the placement we need. So a lot of these storms or these waves are not necessarily rolling off in the favorable zone of the ITCZ and are kind of rolling off further north where we're seeing that dry air from the Sahara Desert. And you can see that on a lot of our models here. Again, I'll just show you the dry air. Again, kind of more difficult to see on this model, but you'll note, again, we do have these pockets of these lighter colors in the Atlantic indicating waves of dry air. Now, where these waves are coming off currently are, again, in that position that they're not really fully able to take advantage of, the nicer conditions and more favorable conditions to the south. So I'll move this ahead at a time. For example, look at this wave it's coming off of Africa probably around this Friday. Notice where the low pressure is. It's right near the Cape Verde Islands. To see true development in the tropics, you generally want them to come off further south here. And again, you can see that where that lift is in the atmosphere near that convergence zone. You're seeing all that rain, but all the dry air to the north where the actual center of circulation is coming off is much less favorable. So again, to really get a good hurricane, you want this actual low pressure to come off further south here, ride this very moist, warm, atmosphere towards the Leeward Islands, and then eventually, generally, you want them to develop in this region to have a shot of impacting land. I say you want to, in terms of if you're a hurricane, this is what you would want to do if you want to, kind of cause havoc here, and then eventually that's late enough that it can't quite turn out to sea. And it can get into the Caribbean or into the Southwest Atlantic and cause problems for the United States. So luckily we haven't seen that over the past couple of days, and we probably won't for the near future, but we are expecting changes towards the end of the month. And again, this map, just to kind of summarize it for you, purple is favorable for tropical development. The red colors are less favorable. So this is getting towards the end of August, and you'll notice a lot of these purple colors here into that main development region of the Atlantic. That should help support these waves as they come off of Africa towards peak hurricane season. By the time we even get to the middle of September, you'll notice the Caribbean and the main development region both kind of wake up a little bit here, become slightly more favorable for that tropical development. So again, I know a lot of folks kind of thinking right now, well, where's this hyperactive season we were promised? Well, don't wish it to arrive, because it very much will. I'm sure here as we get closer to peak hurricane season. Again, we're still almost a month away from the peak of Atlantic hurricane season, and it extends well into October too. We've seen plenty of near Halloween hurricanes here, so we've got a good 2 months, probably even longer than that really, of potential tropical development. So again, already been an active year. 3 out of our 5 storms that have formed have been hurricanes, and likely, if Ernesto does hit major hurricane status, 2 of the 5 would have been major hurricanes. Again, we had Category 5 Beryl, broke all kind of records. We could have Category 3 Ernesto here soon enough. So, plenty of things to watch out for. But latest forecast from the Climate Prediction Center does indicate tropical development towards the middle and end of the month is likely. In fact, that dark red area you see, that is greater than a 40% chance of tropical cyclone formation. By the time we get to the first week of September, end of August, it looks very, very active here into the main development region. Again, greater than a 60% chance. That's the highest they can put for potential tropical development in that time frame to kind of start off September. So plenty of time to go, plenty of things to monitor here in the long run. And again, we will definitely do it for you here as we get closer on in. So again, I appreciate y'all folks hanging out with me tonight to talk some weather. Have a great rest of your evening. Wish me luck tomorrow, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning bright and early.